the period necessary to produce the nuclear fuel needed for a weapon. In July, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that Tehran is 1 to 2 weeks away from breakout capacity. Meanwhile, Iran has responded to the pressure from abroad by forging closer ties with an array of sub-state groups in the region: Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and militias in Iraq and Syria. Together, this axis of resistance has plunged Israel into its longest and most perilous war in decades, diverted about 70% of vessel traffic out of the Red Sea, and turned Iraq and Syria into reliable client states. By virtually any measure, Washington's policy towards Iran has failed. Why has maximum pressure not worked? Hadi Kahalzadeh, a research fellow at Brandeis University, has authored a careful study that comes to an important conclusion. The expanded sanctions regime has had adverse consequences for the Iranian middle class, causing them to lose faith in the reformist politicians who supported a new round of diplomacy. Iranian hardliners invoked the U.S. withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal to show that they had been right all along to dismiss the negotiations as a sham. As European and other international companies began to withdraw from Iran, the hardliners opened the door to Chinese investors and called on their own loyal business interests to fill the vacuum. Even after a reformist, Masoud Pezeshkian, was recently elected president, he still has had to cave to the religious and military establishment who hold real power. The truth is that for almost a decade, Washington has had an attitude towards Iran, unrelenting opposition and pressure, but not a strategy. The Obama administration tried an approach that paired extreme sanctions with a way out for Iran, if it would restrict its nuclear program. By containing Iran's most potent threat, Obama hoped the country would end up being less aggressive in its neighborhood. International experts agree Iran largely adhered to the nuclear deal. Tehran, however, did not wind down its regional activities, which were never part of the deal. Could nuclear negotiations have led to some kind of broader relaxation of tensions? It's impossible to know, because in 2 years, Trump took power and reversed policy altogether. The Biden administration could have changed course, but feared that doing so would trigger too strong a reaction from Republicans. The problem is that the current approach does not amount to a strategy. Rather, it is an attitude based primarily on pandering to American domestic audiences by looking tough. It's a vague notion that unrelenting opposition will yield something, maybe a collapse of the regime itself. Now, I dislike the Iranian regime and everything it stands for. I admire the brave women and men who have opposed it in the streets and paid a heavy price for their opposition. I applaud those who have tried to moderate the country from within, knowing they're bucking the regime's anti-American history and DNA. I hope that one day this great nation will be able to return to its rightful place of prestige in the region and the world. But hope is not a strategy. The United States and its allies need to devise a policy towards Iran that recognizes the reality that the Islamic Republic exists, and then put in place threats and punishments to deter it, but also incentives so that it has a reason to relax tensions. This will not lead to a détente, let alone cooperation with Tehran. But it could reduce the many frictions that may tip this volatile region into a long and bloody war. Go to CNN.com/Fareed for a link to my Washington Post column this week, and let's get started.